to do the thing. Okay, recording in progress. Hi, everybody. You are watching Simply SCAdian, no title required. This is Zoph, one of the co-hosts of the show. And tonight, my other co-host, Lucas, got stuck at work. He's a high school teacher, so he is dealing with naughty high school students. Not really. I think they're going to be closed tomorrow because of the snow out in New Jersey. So he sends his love, and he's really sorry he can't be here with us. So what is Simply SCAdian No Title Required? It's a show that focuses on people who do not have peerages and are not landed barons and baronesses or court baron and baronesses. This is a show about regular folks in the SCA because we believe that we can learn just as much, if not more, from people who do not have all the highfalutin titles. So, speaking of awesome people who have no highfalutin titles, we have Tali Essen of the Isles, Unicorn Bard, member of the Lunacy, is part of the Barony of Shattered Crystal Midrealm. She's been in the SCA long enough that her laurel made her stop saying, "I'm new." Tali is a bard, scribe, and prolific middle wiki editor, currently working to improve Queen Iceland's page. She's passionate about encouraging new bards and scribes and is a moderator for several online bardic communities. She's apprenticed to Master Owen Allen of Northshield and is probably asking you why you haven't written that award recommendation. Outside of the SCA, she's super mom to 3 kids under 10 and an urban homesteader. Welcome, Tali.
Hi.
So, how did you find the SCA?
I honestly can't remember. I'm assuming we found somebody at Archon, which is a local sci-fi fantasy convention here in St. Louis. And I know a number of people from both Shattered Crystal and Barony of Three Rivers in Callantyre happened to go there. My husband had tried to join long before I met him, but couldn't really mesh with the community. So we tried again. He tried in Three Rivers, so we tried in Shattered Crystal, and we meshed better over there.
What drew you to the SCA? What is it about the SCA that you love?
I love medieval stuff. I'm a very fiber crafty person, so until recently I was a weaver. I knit, I crochet, I embroider. If there's a fiber, I probably tried it. So it was like other people who do fiber arts, and I very much needed to get out of the house. So yeah.
Okay, so you said in your bio that you are a unicorn bard. What is a unicorn bard?
I'm just awesome. They just happen to call me the Unicorn Bard.
Oh, so that's a nickname.
Yes. You're not the first person to go, is that a title? I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what it sounds like.
it
All right,
does.
so what's the lunacy then?
The lunacy is Master Owen Allen's household. So when we are apprenticed, she's up here, we all get loons
Oh,
because he lives in Minnesota. So it is the lunacy.
I see. Okay. So, how did you get into the bardic arts?
During lockdowns, I did not have anything to do or anywhere to go. And Barony of Three Rivers, where I was currently playing, started their Friday Night Bardic. So I was like, ooh, maybe something to do? And I started going to those, and I went on and off for a while until I met Owen, who took me under his wing and taught me the ins and outs of bardic circles and underlying conversations and like power structures between apprentices and squires and all of the people who were on there. And it's just really interesting.
Can you elaborate on that? Because that's pretty interesting what you just said.
So, like Sir Eric Hoyt of Exon will perform something, and then later Sivrid, who was at the time his squire and he's been knighted since then, would kind of reply to what Eric performed. It's not always somebody with a relationship to somebody else. We have it happen a lot in our bardics where somebody will perform something and then, half an hour later on somebody else's turn, they're like, so and so performed this and it made me think of this. So now I'm going to perform this by whichever bard it's by.
So how
And
did
it's
you meet Owen?
I met him at the B3R circles, and
What?
he
The what?
the Barony of Three Rivers, the Friday night bardic circles on Zoom
On
during
Zoom.
pandemic. Um, so we met and we started talking because I was struggling. I did not have any repertoire. I started with Disney songs, Aurelio Voltaire, who's a dark cabaret artist, and a whole bunch of Napoleonic sea shanties because it's like all I had. And he helped me learn repertoire and gave me like sites and was like, I was thinking this song might be a good one. And I've gone from having no SCAdian repertoire to it's really long.
So is singing your only interest, or do you have any interest in storytelling?
I tell some stories now and then. I have
Okay.
one that's been floating around that I've been telling since Penzic about startling then Queen Sive, now Baroness Sive, when I came to retain for her because I wasn't supposed to be there, which everybody said a whole lot for about 72 hours. Because as a mom of three, two of which are two were 1.5-year-old twins, I don't get to go to Penzic.
Right.
I'm a stay-at-home mom who is going to watch all of the children. And it so happened that a friend of mine had a really crazy idea, and his wife went along with this crazy idea and ended up with 5 children for a week, 4 of which were under the age of 4.
So you could go to Penzic.
So me and her husband could go to Penzic.
And what happened with this story? How did that come into being?
So I had told Sive that she might want to go to the North Shield Bardic Circle. I had heard rumors on the wind of shenanigans, and I believe Sive likes shenanigans. So I told her, and she was previously occupied that night. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I got my apprenticeship at that circle, which is a slightly different story. And the next day I went to do my retainer, my 2-hour retainer for Sive, because I knew it was the only time I was really going to see her at Penzic. And I got there early and I'm sitting behind the throne because it's hot and I'm not the most mobile person. So standing for long periods can be a problem. But when my retaining shift finally comes up, I take the bag and I lean across the throne and I go, Your Majesty, you would think these duelists, they have this entire field. They would stop cramming themselves into the corner right there. And she turns around and then she does a double take and she goes, You're not supposed to be here. And I go, But Your Majesty, I've been on your retaining shift for 10 days. It's not my fault you didn't read it. And that's why I have a warning label.
You're not supposed to be here.
I'm not supposed to be here. She wasn't the only one who said that because no, outside of Owen, Tegan, and my friend Melanie, nobody knew I was going to Penzic. Tegan gave me a spot in the locker to put my hammock stand because I hammock camp. And obviously, you know, the savannah, it's full of shady trees. So she knew, Owen knew, because we had to, originally we were going to do my apprenticeship ceremony at Bardic Madness North Shield, but my car overheated bizarrely on my way there while I was going 85 up the highway, and all the gauges went up and then they all died, and it was fun. I never want to have that kind of fun ever again in my life. So I didn't make my apprenticeship ceremony, which was heartbreaking.
Oh,
Instead, I had it at Penzic.
hey, having it, and you had it at a Bardic Circle too, at
And I had it at a
Northfield's
Bardic
Bardic
Circle.
Circle. So, what did you think of Penzic?
I really liked Penzic. I enjoyed it a lot. It was so much fun. I love the Bardic Symposium. The Bardic circles were all fun for different reasons. They were all run different ways, which is always nice and can be challenging. The
Um,
popcorn circle had me and Colette helped Shire bards be able to perform at the popcorn circle because if so, a popcorn circle somebody stands up and sings, and then just somebody else randomly stands up and sings. But if you don't have the confidence to take the room, it can be really hard to get a turn. And we noticed that going on, and we started pulling people so that who wanted to perform, and it was obvious they wanted to and were having issues,
Yeah, I'm not a
which
fan
was
of
fun.
popcorn style bardics because of that, because the
Yeah.
extroverted, confident ones get to perform and those who are a little shyer don't get to.
Yeah, I have problems with them for that reason. I'm very extroverted, but like commanding a room is very anxiety producing. So
Yeah.
I am capable of doing it, and now that I have I'm a danger apprentice, so I have a danger apprentice warning label, which was created by Melanie de la Tour, is the premier danger apprentice of Mistress Morgana, and I'm the only one who's not one of Morgana's apprentices. But like I have my so it's the best piece of shtick I've ever been given. Because I can really command a room really easily by walking in and going, "Hi, I'm Tali, and I come with a warning label," and everybody like turns around.
So if somebody's getting interested in becoming a bard, what advice would you give to them?
Come to an online Bardic circle. Friday night Bardics are a really good place for that. If somebody in Friday night Bardic is floating around, they'll post a link. If they're not, I'll follow behind and post a link later. Um, we Friday night Bardic is one that I help mod, and we're really friendly. We're really entry level friendly, which can be hard. If you go to like an event, sometimes you don't know the people in the circle, especially if you're a new bard. And sometimes the people aren't the nicest to bards who don't have an SCA repertoire yet. But we're like, hey, if what you have is Ella Fitzgerald, we would love to hear it.
Yeah.
My in person circles, what I say at the beginning is if you are new and you don't have a SCAdian repertoire, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to perform. But if you stood up and sang happy birthday, you'd make my absolute evening.
You know, in
Because
the
performing is the hard part, repertoire we can fix.
right, in the Cleflands, we used to have the North Oaken Bardic Community Gorseth, and one of the things was we did a Kevahana, and in order to pay, you had to pay for your coffee or your cookie, and it would be perform something for us. And to assist with that, they had children's storybooks and poetry books sitting out so you could pick just something out and read it to us. And it really broke down a lot of the fear of Bardic for people when we did that. Why is everybody bug me when I'm doing my show? So I don't know if you hear that, but everything's binging and booming over here. All right, so let's talk about, there was something else you mentioned in your bio that I wanted to talk about. You are a prolific Middle Wiki editor. So what is Middle Wiki for those people who don't know, and what does an editor do of that?
Okay, so Middle Wiki is a Wikipedia that is specifically for the mid realm in this case. I know Anstiora has one because we have a person who has an Anstioran wiki in the middle Discord server. I I have become prolific. I've started like pulling people from my barony and getting their permission to create pages. I have this thing where I've started saying save a scribe and start a wiki because scroll preferences, you can put them on your wiki pages. Otherwise, we email your seneschal and hope they know who you are.
Right.
Especially for AOAs, it can be very, very hard for with new people to know what they're interested in generally. And I focus on that a little bit because I like to personalize. The first award that somebody gets is really nice for me. And I get thank you notes and it makes me so happy.
So tell
But
me about, go ahead.
so I started doing that and I have upgraded the graphics for people who are missing profile pictures and arms pictures. And I'm slowly going through and redrawing arms that are available and tracing people down for permission to post arms on their wiki. And in doing that and replacing all of the old missing pictures which were pixelated and they were just really old, I came across Queen Iceland's page, which had no pictures, no arms. It had the story of Iceland's war and a mention that the Doe's Grace is named after her, and that's it.
That's it?
That's it. And I cried. I have been crying for days. I'm just like, this need that she deserves better. I have talked to two of my friends who are like, I don't know who that is. And it broke my heart.
Right.
Because I'm friends with Morgana, who was friends with her. So understandably, maybe I've heard stories. So I'm like, this needs fixed. So I reached out to Duke Talamar, who's been amazing in talking to me and giving me information for the wiki and pictures. And I last night or this morning I updated her profile picture, and her arms are now on her wiki. And I'm working on everything else, but she was a mother of 3, and she was younger than I am now. And it's just really emotional, so I kind of slow at getting all of this compiled properly. I'm going to add the media that's been written about her and the bardic songs and stories that are online, because there are a few, and just try to make it a better memorial to somebody who meant so much to us.
Can you, for the people that are not from the Mid-Realm, can you tell us about Queen Iceland?
Oh, I can try. I am not going to be the best person for this, but I can try. She was a queen at Penzic. She was queen twice, and she had breast cancer after their third child was born. But her doctors, this is going to be a very vague overview, but her doctors approved her going to Penzic. But around the time or during Penzic, I'm not sure, they found out that her cancer was terminal. And the known world found out about this. And it ended up that 19 kingdoms fought for Iceland. Only the East didn't, because you can't have a war without another side.
Right.
So, like, she meant something to the society. And when you talk to people who were there and who knew them, and Owen received awards from them, and it's like, and they received awards in Northshield when he got the award from them on a Wednesday. And he was telling me, one day somebody will look at you and go, you couldn't have possibly gotten an award on a Wednesday. And the people who got those awards were told, just tell them it was Talamar in Iceland.
Mm.
Um, so she meant something, and she passed away shortly after that Penzic. And shortly after that, they renamed the Queen's Favor, which she had created, which I found out recently, I didn't know that, into the Doe's Grace, which is named for her arms, which are a doe garden, which is a doe. It's standing on a sun. It's really pretty. The original sadly wasn't in the best quality, so the one on her wiki page I redrew, because I'm also a redraw herald for our submissions herald when we need edited, when we need arms edited. I'll go through after our monthly meetings and I'll do all the redraws.
Gotcha. So you started with fiber arts.
Mhm.
You sort of, you still do stuff, but you're not active as a fiber artist anymore because you got sucked into the bardic arts. Is that the way it worked?
No, I'm unable to do fiber arts anymore because I have arthritis. And as
Oh,
a weaver with major arthritis in my shoulder, I can't.
can't.
I I literally can't. I have a very large ankle floor loom that is going to a member of our barony on a long-term loan. Not that she needs another one, but I figured Athena, my loom, would at least maybe get some use there, whereas I can't warp her anymore. She's very large, and I can't weave on her anymore. And just she sits next to my desk, and it breaks my heart that there's this wonderful piece of equipment that's not getting used. So I haven't done any fiber art since I was pregnant with the twins. I was very sick, and that was all I could do for the longest time, and then I just stopped doing it right around the time they were born. And the arthritis is just getting worse.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All right, so you dove into the Bardic arts
Hmm.
and you've sort of found a home there, but then you decided to do something else, which is scribal arts. Talk to me about what bit you about what caused you to dive into the scribal arts.
I like coloring, so here's the thing about doing a lot of online Bardics. You end up sitting at your desk with a lot of time on your hands. So I picked up Scribble to give myself something to do during Bardics because I'm one of those people. I'm fidgety. I require having something to do. So I started doing, some scrolls. I made some for Christmas. My first one, the first scroll I ever made was in early 2022. And I made it for Owen because he's a booger. And he sent me at one point a video of somebody supposedly singing Never Gonna Give You Up in Old English. And he goes, "You could learn this." So I listened to the video. I'm like, "Oh, and that's not Old English," which I have a passing knowledge of. That's Middle English. He goes, "Well, you could translate it." And I'm like, "Yes." And I did. And there are other people who have also translated the full song. I think maybe I'm a little smarter. I translated it into an Anglo-Saxon riddle that takes 10 seconds to perform, and I have a head start for running in the opposite direction. So I was sitting at my desk one day, pondering or upstairs feeding babies because they would have been newborns at this point. I'm like, I could make Owen a Rick scroll. That sounds like fun. But I knew nothing about scribal arts. I didn't draw, I didn't paint. I'd done a couple preprints when I was in Palantir, but I didn't draw or paint or anything. So I spent 2 months learning how to do Scribble from scratch by myself. The formatting, all of it. And I sent it to him, and being his stoic self, he opened the box, he looked at it, he put it next to his desk where it lives, which is amazing to me. I am proud of this sad little scroll because it took 2 months worth of effort to get there, and now I'm much faster because obviously now I have foundation I didn't have.
And you do have a piece right there that you showed me. You want to show everybody watching?
Oh, I can do that because it's not going to focus on words. So yeah, so this is a commission that I'm working on,
Nice.
and I've gotten a lot better in a year.
Yeah, I'm really impressed.
I do it a lot. I do a lot of online Bardics, but yeah, so that's a piece I'm working on. I have a couple of Kingdom Scrolls over here that are in process. They're very early in process right now. But I do those, and when I first started Scribble, I was just printing off manuscript pages to trace. And I went, "Oh, well, this is really hard. They're low res, they're dirty because they're old. Even when they're high res at scroll size, they can get blurry because it's not like the library's intended for you to be doing this, right?" So I've also undertaken a project where I clean up medieval manuscripts on Procreate, which is a drawing app on an Apple device. I have an iPad. We just happen to have one because of things my husband does. So I clean them up and I draw them, and I have a page of illuminated letters, borders, and I think half pages on my website that are available to the youth and Scribble communities for free, just to use for award scrolls or encouraging kids to paint.
Wait,
Which,
what's your let me put this in the comments. What's your URL?
oh, I'm gonna need to grab it for you. I'll toss it to you. Hold on. I'll toss it to you in chat because it is a Google site.
Oh, okay. Got it.
So it's a little long still.
All right, I'm gonna drop it in the comments.
Yep, so that's my homepage, and up on the top bar, you'll see traceable manuscripts. Under my Scribble things, there's also a very long, comprehensive list of period manuscripts that are online with lists under them of things you'll find in the manuscripts amethyst leaves, illuminated letters, Celtic knots, people, saints, weavers, brewers, like things that. So I made this list for myself so that I don't have to go looking through every single manuscript every time I want something. But it's also useful to other people.
Yeah.
A lot of my website is this is making it really easy for me to access.
So, how did you teach yourself to be a scribe? How does that work?
I read a handbook. I don't necessarily recommend like reading the Middle Kingdom Scribal handbook. It's really good for referencing, but if you're reading it, it's kind of boring.
There's a Middle Kingdom scribal handbook?
There is, if on the Middle Kingdom website under document library, which is as far as my brain is going to take me. Give me a second to pull it up. If you go to Heralds and you click on Herald, or you hover over Herald, it says Scribes Archive, and the top link is a new scribe booklet. The second link is the Scribal 4th edition handbook, which is really good for formatting because that's something that figuring out by yourself can be kind of hard. It talks about margins and matting, which I'm getting better at making my scrolls far more mattable than they were when I first started. Because when you first start, you're like, oh no, I want the artwork to go the entire scroll. But you need to go an inch or two in so that it can have a professional border in front of it in a frame. It just makes it look better.
Mm-hmm.
So that helped. I asked a lot of people. Sue Yun from Meridier sent me a starter package that had a number of things in it, among which were 2 sheets of pergmatata, which is a vegetable vellum. It's a very specialty type of paper that's amazingly awesome to work on. I made Noble Ezra Johanna's Ezra of Barcelona's Royal Vanguard Award. It's because you're going to ask me, and now I can't remember what it is an award for specifically. But I did that on Perg. It was the first Perg scroll I had ever done because it's kind of intimidating to take something that is $1.50 a sheet and potentially mess the sheet up, even though it's more forgiving.
Um, so recently, one of the Laurels, and I swear I can only remember her modern name right now. I can't remember her SCA name for the life of me, posted about people gatekeeping Scribble.
Matilda's the librarian.
Thank you. So I found her post very, very informative. And the follow up that after she posted it, people were commenting and sharing it and saying, yes, yes, yes. And some of them were the people who actually themselves were gatekeeping Scribble.
Yeah, that post partially, I'm not going to say that we should claim all the credit, but partially came out of a conversation me and her and a number of scribes were having in the Mid-Realm Discord server. Because I had been in a different Scribble server, and somebody had made the comment, I don't understand why people don't just use Perg. The price is almost the same as Bristol. And me and my husband had looked, because I'm like, that's not right. And I know that's not right. And I was venting in Mid-Realm Scribble because we're a very safe group for scribes, especially new scribes. And it's like, I really hate it. When people say it's almost the same price when a sheet of Bristol is 50 cents and a sheet of Perg is $1.50, and I'm a mom of three who is buying store brand milk to save 5 cents. That's not the same, that's not almost the same price. I've experienced getting like flack for the materials I use. When I started, I was using Artist Loft paint, which is from Michaels, which it's not bad. It's not great, maybe, but it's not bad. And you have to start somewhere. You're not going to drop $200 or whatever on a whole bunch of really expensive paint that you don't know if you're gonna use, even if you have the money to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I've upgraded my paints, and my friend Razia sent me for my birthday a set of high grade metallics. And I wasn't using bad metallics. I was using a higher grade, but they're not as good as the ones that she sent me that I absolutely love. And she was like, Tali should have better supplies. I'm going to send Tali better supplies, which is kind of more how this should work. Instead of giving people flack for you're wearing a polyester dress or you're painting with acrylic paint or I don't know, you're using modern brewer's yeast because I guess you could probably wildcraft that. It's like we need to help people and not be knocking them down. But yeah, so I loved her post.
Yeah, it was really informative for me. I didn't realize that um there's not as much gatekeeping in the bardic arts, I've noticed.
Not generally, no.
Um as there is in so many of the other arts in the SCA. Which is why the bardic arts are something that it's easier to get into if you're not scared of
Yeah,
public speaking. But I've seen people who push through it and tears streaming down their face and they perform and they get the biggest hugs and the loudest cheers when they're done because they overcame their fears. But
yeah.
what's the solution though to people who try to who are so clueless about the wealth they have that they assume everybody else has wealth? What's the solution?
Encouraging them to pass it on. But aside from that, some of those people are just the type of people that there's not gonna be a way to make that better.
Mhm.
You just keep the newcomers away from them, pretty much.
But isn't that the broken stair thing? I mean,
Yeah, I don't know what the answer to it is. I mean, for Bardic Circles, we have so I created a group of mods between Friday Night Bardic and what was Tuesday Night Bardic and moved to Monday and is getting ready to go on hiatus because me and Tegan need a break. Um, but between the four of us, we created a group that's a mod group called Keepers of the Ethereal Flame, and we make our Bardics very standardized and predictable, and they always run the same way, which makes it better for beginners. We give you the rules, you understand. We go in an alphabetical order on a screen with everybody in alphabetical order so you can see where you are. And
mhm,
there's not a sign up list like phobia of I don't want to ask to be on a list. And it makes it easier, especially for people on the spectrum, because a Bardic Circle, there's me going off. A Bardic Circle is a very complex social situation, even though from the outside it's like people are standing up and singing, and that's all that's going on. But if you're neurospicy at all, it can be really complicated.
mhm.
And we work with the people who need help with this is how this goes. And we see you doing this, and that's okay. And it happens. We're going to recommend this instead. Would make it easier for you and everybody else. And most of the time it works great. And I think that's why me, Davik, Rohes, Tegan have such a strong Bardic community that we have.
How many people show up to usually to your Bardics?
Monday we have less, but there's Bardics all weekend, so we think that that's part of it. And we'll get like 16. Fridays can get 30. I don't think we've hit 30 recently, but 20 to 25, I would say, is a good average. And
Wow.
you have people coming in and out all night. So it can be higher than that, but at one time. They're pretty big. They're not as big as, say, Barony of Three Rivers Bardic Zooms were, but that was during lockdown when everybody was at home and events weren't happening. So we've seen it slow down a little, but we have people who don't go to events or can't go to events for a myriad of different reasons. And we're there for them on Fridays when everybody else, when all their other friends are, they're gone.
Right. How has the online Bardics prepared you for in-person Bardics?
It's definitely given me practice space. I can practice and I can mess up, and nobody is going to say anything. It's a very safe area. Because you know when you know when you're like, ooh, that note was off, or
Oh
man,
yeah.
my melody was terrible today. And but nobody is going to critique you or anything like that. In person's been more difficult because since I had the twins and I had a C-section, I now don't have a core. So standing up to perform is something that me and Tommaso and Beatrice are working to restore because I had it before and now I just don't. And it's taking work to bring back.
Right.
But I'm better at reading circles than I would have been originally. I'd never attended a Bardic circle before lockdown, but Palantir has post revels, not Bardic circles, and they're different things.
What's the difference?
Post revels usually are more just a party with a group sing than it is, say, a performance circle where somebody will stand up and they will perform, and people might join in on the chorus, but otherwise it's the spotlight for that person. And it's less of that over there. Actually, there's almost none of that over there. It's all army group sing, which is different and it's not my thing, but there's nothing wrong with it.
Right. Right. Um, so I completely blanked on what I was going to ask you. Punt, Zoph, punt, punt. Um, what else in your bio did I want to ask you about? Oh, yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you about. Why become an apprentice? What was that decision for you based on?
Um, to some degree, and me and Owen discussed this in depth, and I did like interviews with peers and apprentices and all kinds of people before we finalized anything. But it's like it was a type of validation. Like I am doing good and going in the right direction. It's also a visible form of support. Not that Owen was quiet about the fact he was my teacher. He showed me around Bardic Madness in Mid-Realm 2022, which is a Bard only event. It's not a competition. We just all go and do challenges. You do 3 in one day. There's a circle afterwards. It is a place for bards to bard, and it's amazing. And he went around, he goes, "This is Tali, and she's my new student." And I'm like, it made me so happy. But it was there that I was like, No, we really need to make this a thing." He'd been working with me since I'd been his student since 2020. But at Bardic Madness in 2022, when I got there, I did not know this, but I had lost the hearing in my left ear.
Oh no.
I'd had a cold and it inflamed the nerve, so I couldn't hear myself singing. I all of the performances that Kyrian videoed that are on his channel of me from that madness, I cannot hear myself. I sound like a 2 pack a day smoker with laryngitis to me. I performed the entire day only off the word of Owen saying, "No, you actually sound fine." And at that point, I went, I just spent an entire day performing where I couldn't hear myself because Owen said I sounded fine. I think maybe we should finalize this.
Yeah. Yeah, the trust. Trust is really important in that relationship. So, what, in your opinion, we're going to dive deep here. What does being an apprentice give give the peer? What does Owen get out of your relationship?
Well, a fellow shenanigator,
That's nice.
because I'm nothing but trouble. Um, and he can be too. So we work really well together that way. We learn things from each other. He's learned more about Scribble than he ever knew, I think. Maybe. I could be wrong. He's been in the SCA much longer than I have. But and his wife's a herald, so I would she's a draw she's also a art herald. So I would he probably knew some. But there's that. He has always told me that jealousy is not in our contract. I want you to learn everything from everybody you possibly can. And I will support you whether it is Bardic or not.
Nice.
So I learn everything from everybody I possibly can.
That's great. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, and I don't worry that, oh, I'm learning storytelling from Morgana, which I haven't done, but first
But you
example that pops into
should.
my mind. And Owen will be upset because I'm learning from Morgana or Melitus, who is a Laurel over in Callantir, or, Matildus, who talks to me about Scrabble stuff and helps me when I'm like, oh no, I messed up. And it really lowers the bar on the anxiety because I have really bad anxiety. So the trust thing is really, really important to me.
Tommaso wants you to know that Beatrice says, remember to breathe. Thank you, Tommaso. So where do you see yourself, or where do you want to be in 5 years in the SCA?
Mm, I mean, a lot of places doing a lot of things, but I'd like to take a kingdom level position at some point, whether it's some form of heraldry or, Tommaso just stepped up to Kingdom Minister of Arts and Sciences. Maybe he
Right?
doesn't want to do that forever.
What was
Or
he
he hasn't stepped
thinking?
up yet, but.
He will be. Um,
Mhm.
so just more learn all the things then?
Yeah, I have my I have my specialties. Tommaso actually said something funny to me once. He goes, "One day they're going to be like, she needs to specialize." And I'm like, well, one, specialization is for insects. And two, everything I picked up because I needed things to do during online Bardics.
Right, right.
So I picked up Scribble, I picked up Heraldry. It gives me something to do.
And it makes you happy. That's all
And it
you need
makes me
to worry
happy. It
about.
makes me more attentive. I'm the person who really needs to be doing something with my hands. And yeah, it makes me happy. I don't do anything in the SCA that doesn't make me happy. I, in general, don't do, outside of household chores, I don't do things that make me unhappy. I am a Girl Scout volunteer. I teach archery. I'm a nationally certified archery instructor, and I do that for fun. And I go camping with our girls, and I'm not a troop leader. I'm just a certified mom.
That's the
And I
best
do
job on the planet, to be a certified mom.
and I also recently picked up my SCA archery MIT, which is martial in training, because I have the certification that they base the martial lit off of. I've already paid for that. Be nice to kind of use it more.
Yeah. All right, so last question. What can the SCA do better?
Accommodations are important, which goes back to archery. So I have arthritis. Specifically, it's pretty bad in my right shoulder. I sprained it doing calligraphy last January. You can do that. You can do calligraphy wrong enough to sprain your shoulder, especially if you have arthritis of your tendons. Don't do that. Don't be me. Um, so I can't shoot a recurve. My bow, I have a universal compound, which is what we teach Girl Scouts, has a 15-pound pull weight. And at 50%, it has 0 pull. So that's the weight that you feel, the tension, when you're pulling your bow back. And I talked to the Kingdom Archery Marshal and I said, so I have a problem. I have a disability. I'm not able to pull a recurve. I can maybe shoot 3 arrows in a single day with a recurve. I can shoot at least 10 times that many with my universal. Because at some point, my shoulder, depending on the day, is going to go, nope, you're done. So I said, I've seen in the handbook, and I actually copied it down because it's interesting. No compound bows are allowed. There will be no exceptions to this prohibition. So I asked around because that's not very explanatory as to why that is a
Yeah.
prohibition. I'm like, and people are like, oh, they're dangerous. And I'm like, I don't think I would be giving them to 7-year-olds if they were that dangerous. Because that's when we start teaching archery in Girl Scouts. And come to find out that the only reason you can't use a compound is it doesn't look period.
Are you serious?
It can also give an advantage to a archer since it has a zero pull at a certain point. If you're a perfectly healthy archer, sure, that would give you an advantage. But aside from that, it's basically that they don't look period. So I asked Dietrich, and he was wonderful. I have an accommodation to use my compound at practices. I can't compete with it, but hey, that's cool. That's fine. I don't think it gives me a particularly an advantage like at all, but I can understand why a perfectly healthy person it could. Because when you're pulling 60 pounds all day, that's different than what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so accessibility is important. We're all getting older. I'm on the younger end of getting older, but I'm almost 40. I'm getting older. Uh, and it's not even just in fighting where accommodations can be necessary. Sites where there's no handicap parking, nobody went out to check to make sure that, there's not a curb, at least somewhere. So somebody in a wheelchair, a walker, a scooter. I have a number of friends who use all of those things, can get around the site, especially at outdoor events. So accommodations are important. There's the neurospicy accommodations too, for people who are on the spectrum or even people like me who just have anxiety disorders.
Right.
And transparency, which has been a big thing going on in mid realm, especially with how do you start a peerage path? Can you ask somebody if they can be your peer? Should you not because it's a blacklist, but it's only a blacklist for these people, but not these people? And these people require you to ask, but these people don't. And it's very confusing to most people. I was lucky Owen very early on said, oh, yeah, you can totally ask a Laurel if you want to be their apprentice, which I did. I asked Owen when we got there. We talked about it a few times, but when we got there, I'm the one who asked him. Oh, and some of that's also the no, you can't say you want the thing.
Right.
We're not going to give you the thing if you say you want it, which reminds me of like my grandma when I was breastfeeding my oldest, who was like, if she's old enough to ask for it, she shouldn't get it anymore. And I'm like, so she doesn't get apples either? And it can seem like that. I don't typically have those problems. I'm a really big proponent on getting award recs written for people, as is in my bio. Have you written award recs lately? Because I've written 15 this month.
Nice.
I keep a list um, of people I see doing like cool things. I have my bard book because I'm a bard, and the muse hits you at the worst possible moment when you wouldn't have anything to write on. So I carry one in my in my day bag. And I've started keeping a list of people. I keep a journal for events the day after. I sit down and write everything that happened that I saw because Owen's first rule is observe, and I am very, very good at this rule. But transparency is really important, as is accommodations.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Again, I was talking with Tali Essen of the Isles. And in 2 weeks, we will have a wonderful, amazing human being from the East Kingdom joining us. So come back to us in 2 weeks. You've been watching Simply Scadian, no title required. Thank you, Tally.
Thank you.